Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. My name is Dr. Michael Ryce, and we are here to support you in the process of forgiveness. We're sitting in the sunshine on this beautiful Las Vegas day, and delighted and honored to be able to share the tools that we are going to be sharing with you today. Our topic, of course, is primarily the Aramaic topic of forgiveness, the internal process of forgiveness. If you haven't tapped into our show before, we invite you to go to our website, which is www.whyagain.com, and download the worksheet, Reality Management. If you look on the right-hand side of the home page, you'll see the link that says Download Worksheets. You can download a set of instructions. That's the first link under Download Worksheets, and the second one is a 7-step reality management process. And so we invite you to download those tools and start to work with them. We would love to have your questions and refinements on using the tool of forgiveness. Welcome to our show. Jeannie, are you with us this morning?
Yes, I am. I'm back on.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And
I'll
so
let
do we
you
have
know
anything?
when someone pops in. You've got David on the line, and I'll let you know if anybody pops into the chat room with a question.
Okay, cool, fabulous. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Michael and everyone. How's this connection coming through?
It sounds pretty good.
Good. I believe that Sam is in the chat room, and I know yesterday she had a question about, and I don't know if she wanted to be on the phone this morning, so rather than watching the chat room at the same time, I'm just going to be listening in on the radio. So if you need something from me, Jeannie, just let me know. So, it's a fabulous day here as well, as you and I were talking earlier, Michael. It's just a spectacular day. So we're going to talk about forgiveness today?
Well, our conversation is about forgiveness, and for those who don't know David is the Center Manager, Operations Director at HeartLand, and keeps HeartLand moving and operating and improving. We've been doing all kinds of neat things at HeartLand. For those who haven't been there in a while, we've got 6 new bathrooms in our teaching center, a new floor, an awesome new layout of the building, and everything moving forward there at HeartLand. Thank you, David and Terry, for your part in doing that. Ken, if you happen to be on the phone, thank you for coming to help. And so you've had a particularly moving time in using the forgiveness tool with some family members. And, of course, we talked about that this morning, and I think it's an extremely powerful experience to share with all of our listening audience to see the kind of results you can produce. You know, Sam, if you're there, welcome. We're glad you're here on the chat room. And Sam shared with us a letter yesterday from a salesman who was speaking about how his kindness had increased as a result of her work, and his patience had increased. Not too often you get a letter from a salesman saying, "Thank you for the way you've dealt with me and treated me over a conflict and a problem." And David, your sharing is a little different story, but I think it'll be very inspirational for people to see the kind of shifts and changes that they can make. So, would you like to share that story with us?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. And if anyone comes in the chat room and has a question to bring up, well, then certainly open the space for that. I sometimes get so enthralled with the experiences that I have in doing this work, I can go on and on about it. And just to set the scene a little bit, and we often talk, Michael, about people putting the work into action, and there's just different degrees of participation from everyone. I think that when a person acknowledges out loud or to someone else that they are willing to look at things differently, it opens up all types of possibilities. And several weeks ago, I talked about a exercise that I began with a cousin of mine who lives in Louisville, Kentucky. His name is Terry, and if he's listening, I'd called him today to see if he wanted to be on to share this story as well and to correct me where I may be wrong in some of the details around it. And in essence, what I'm going to be talking about is what I made a decision a couple of months ago. I was in Louisville visiting my family there and staying with my son Ryan and visiting with my cousin Terry. And Terry was having some challenges, and him and I have been very close over the years. And I decided that I would risk doing things a little bit differently as far as approaching and talking about the work with family members. Always a challenge for me. The challenge isn't so much them as it is as them accepting it. It is me and how I'm presenting it and what my intentions and where I'm coming from. So I decided that I would stay connected with Terry rather than to take the geographic tour. Okay, I'm coming in and having a little visit. Good to see you. Thank you, and I'll see you the next time that I come in. I decided I would contact him occasionally and talk about different things that were going on. And he had shared with me some challenges that he was having, and I was very aware of them. And one of his challenges was, what I saw as one of his challenges was his relationship with one of his sons, who had gotten himself into a little of difficulty with the legal system, and he was incarcerated. And he was incarcerated for dealing in some drugs. To me, and I want to clarify that because there was some challenge. There was some. The extent of it, I think, was probably exacerbated a little bit in the of what was around, and he was responsible for his actions and so forth. Anyway, he wound up being incarcerated and given 18 years, which I thought was a little misuse of what the offense was. And that's another story. Anyway, Terry and I had talked and been talking with Terry about the forgiveness and looking at things and seeing things energetically versus coming from our mind. And anyway, Terry was willing to listen and to do a few exercises, and he decided, I talked with him about holding the space of love for his son, and there was just some challenges that was going on, and quite frankly, he decided that his son had made his bed and now he was going to have to sleep in it, and he got what he deserved and being punished. And I talked with him that punishment never resolves anything, and to look at it differently, and as long as he was looking at it coming from punishment, he's going to be coming from his hostile, his non-being mind, and that if he would open up and come from the space of love, of this true essence, and connect with Sean, the son, then there would be, to open that up to connect back again with him rather than to distance himself. So, quite frankly, when I mentioned this to Terry, that he was a little resistant to that and told me that I could do what I wanted to with his son, and communicate with him that he wasn't going to have anything to do with it. And again, if Terry's listening in, if I get this incorrect, well, then you can correct me. So I had talked about, I had sent a message to Terry Terry still carries a beeper, and there are people out in the world that still carries beeper, and I started sending him a message, a numerical message of 143, and that represents I love you. And I did this anonymously. He wasn't aware of it for about almost 2 weeks. And one day when I called him and let him know that it was me that was doing it, and oddly enough, he didn't know that it was me. He thought it was his niece, and that his niece and him had become withdrawn from each other, hadn't stayed in connection with each other over an incident, misunderstanding, and he thought it was his niece that had been doing it. And so in that period of time, he had reconciled with her, and that they were then connected again. And when he heard that it was me, he shared with me, he said that he thought it was her, and he kind of opened up to this whole idea of sending love and holding the space of love. So then he was willing to take on another exercise, or to take on a exercise. He hadn't done anything to this point, of just quietening his mind by staring at the flame of a candle for 5 minutes each day, and to just let go of any mind chatter and to focus on his true essence, love. And he's done this. He did this for a week or two, along about that. So let me get to, so yesterday he called me, and lo and behold, his son was brought to court, and he was 2.5 hours, 3 hours away at a facility serving his sentence, and he returned to go to court, and Terry went to court, and judge, it was some type of hearing, not sure what it was, and Terry was given an opportunity to make a statement to the court, as his wife, Sean's mother, was as well too, and she made a statement, and Terry also made a statement, and he told Sean that he loved him, and that, and I'm not sure of all what he said, but Terry told me, he said, I told him that I loved him, David. He said, you were right, It was like there was this wonderful connection that they had, and the judge then gave a...
So, David?
Huh?
Interrupt you for a second. I want to connect something in that I didn't get clear in your explaining it just now, and that was that in your original conversations with him about his son, he's going to jail, he's got 18-year sentence, too bad, that's his problem, he has to live with it, I don't want anything to do with him, I don't want to talk about him. If you're going to talk about him, I'm going to hang up the phone, was my understanding of his conversation with you when you first started to work with him around punishment and cleaning this up in his family system. Is that an accurate understanding?
Yeah.
So this is the same Terry, the dad, who then goes to court and in front of the judge tells his son, I love you, and reconciles and cleans up the mess between them.
Yeah. And his son acknowledged his part in the crimes that he had committed, and took responsibility for them, and acknowledged that he was out of control, and that he had decided he was going to shift and make a change in his life, and so he did that. And there's a procedure, or there's not a procedure. There's the judge has the opportunity, I guess, to. I'm not sure what this hearing was about and what the focus of it was about. Anyway, it was kind of like a hearing of probation type thing, I guess. And anyway, she decided that she would do what is called shock probation, and what she did then is she gave him shock probation and reduced it that he now can get out in 2 years, which doesn't mean that he doesn't have the other 16 years hanging on, but he now has the possibility, it can get out of incarceration in 2 years. And I'm not sure what the details of that, or whether it's time already served. I know that he's going to be moving closer to a location for his family to be able to visit him. And if Terry is listening, my guess is that Terry will visit him. And if not, then we'll see what goes from there.
So another component I didn't hear you speak about that we spoke about this morning was this young man in jail has been doing his work, came to the point where he said, Your Honor, I deserve the 18 years. I accept my sentence. I did the crime. I'll do the time. And I apologize to the court and to the people I committed this crime over. And so after seeing this event with a father reconciling with his son and being able to express his love, the same man who was able to clean it up with his niece who he'd been in disconnection with, all of a sudden the judge makes a shift, and here's a young man that's going to be on 2 years incarceration instead of 18, and then we'll have an extended probation period. And I know with my work with the courts that what happens in those cases is that the judge retains control over that person, and any infraction, and they're right back into their old sentence. And so that's a pretty awesome shift, and I acknowledge you for your willingness to step forward in your family system and rock the boat a little bit and talk about how the family system can be changed. That's very, very powerful.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, Michael. And I thank you for your support in this information of seeing how this is transferred from family, in the family bloodline. And Terry and I had talked about this, about it being, that just because that it's in our bloodline, Terry, doesn't mean that we can't shift it and make a change with it. And as I talked with my son Ryan last night, there was this vibratory, and this is this whole thing of looking at my life and who it is that I am and how I've been taught, and of looking at this on an energetic level versus a personality level type, if you will, that we resonated to a higher level of vibratory of love, of care and compassion. And though that Terry had that, he's always had that. It's one of the qualities about him that I admire and respect, is that he's, as soon as he let go and dealt with some of that anger and hostility that he had, and he owned it for himself, then he totally automatically just resonated, and it just was connected with everyone. I mean, it's just marvelous for me to be able to be a part of that, and to know that. And I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to share this with the audience, is that there isn't anything that anyone else has to do. It's about anyone taking a certain action towards something and a certain intention towards it, and the results can just be incredible. And this was in such a short period of time. I mean, this was just in February when I was visiting Louisville, and this has only been 6 weeks ago, in essence, because I came back at the end of February. But as all of this has transpired, it's pretty incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's very powerful.
Yeah. And so
you just changed the genetics of a whole family system, and of course, the other component, when we spoke about this morning, you were in your stuff about it, and it's given you some very powerful opportunities to look at some grief and some pain in your family system, your more immediate family system and within yourself, and has opened an awesome space for you to do some healing work as well.
Oh, just incredible. And, it has resonated a lot of sadness and grief, and as you said, that I actually, and it was something that I was unaware of. I like to use the example that you used, Michael, on the wool sweater. When I put a wool sweater on, then it starts to itch. Well, 10 minutes later, the itch goes away, or does it? Until I remove the sweater 8 hours later, then I go, oh, wow, how fabulous that it feels. In essence, to me, that's what was going on. Even with our conversation this morning, I knew that there was something, and without having to even have an understanding of it, an intellectual understanding of it, just to process through those feelings and those emotions of it. And I'm still in the process of it, just by sharing it with the audience and sharing it with you again, then I get to recognize, oh, okay, there's more to it. And I'm very elated that I have the opportunity to continue to do this with Terry and with my family. It is my issues, you know. I have things that have opened up for me, and on an energetic level, I don't know that I would have been able to do that without Terry's support. See, by him just being a little willing, and I say a little willing, it may have been a whole lot willing, then the combination of our energy opens it up for everyone else that's connected with that to do their healing. Whether they do it or not, that's their work.
Well,
so we don't have to, and I'm speaking to the audience. Go ahead.
If I may just share a little bit more about our conversation this morning around this issue?
Sure, please do.
Yeah. So just so that you get a sense, those who are listening, a sense of what it takes to move through these kinds of things. And David is speaking this morning with our show today is with a kind of a distant tone, but in our conversation this morning, David could hardly refrain from the tears and experiencing the grief that he was experiencing around whatever his issues are in this situation, and of course the tears of joy at watching the change between a father who has pretty much rejected his son and said, "You're on your own, kid. Take your lumps, and I'm having nothing to do with you." To bring a healing in that space, and David, with the years of work that we've done, the issues that you've experienced with your father, and the energetic work, the healing, the forgiveness you've done around your relationship with your dad. And of course, then taking it to the next generation with your son. I mean, this is not a Dr. Feelgood process. It's not something that happens in a minute or a heartbeat, but a consistent, systematic application of tools, and you can shift whatever's happening in the family system. It doesn't matter how crazy it is, and of course, it doesn't get much crazier than watching your son go to prison.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, we have someone with a comment online whenever you get a moment.
Oh, cool. Well, let's pull them in. We got a bit of a pause here. Let's hear from our online.
Okay, area code 954, you're on.
Michael?
Who do we have?
Pamela. Hey,
well, hey there, young lady. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am blessed. And for those who don't know Pamela Anderson is a young lady who works with forgiveness. Pardon me?
Pamela Gregory, not Anderson. That was me in my last life.
Oh, excuse me, Pamela.
That's okay.
My error. But Pamela works on a global level with forgiveness and started to work with our tools back several months ago, and is taking it all over the world. One of the things Pamela in my conversation this morning was about is she's got someone in Lebanon that's going to be working with translating the book Why Is This Happening to Me Again into Arabic so that it's available in that culture. And so awesome the work that you're doing, Pamela. Good morning.
Good morning. Good afternoon here in Florida. And thank you. I think I mentioned this to you last time we spoke when you were here in Florida a few weeks ago, that part of the project, one of the projects I'm working on is on a global basis of creating an International Forgiveness Day, which will help bring just the whole conversation of forgiveness into people's lives. That way it's something that they actively practice, and just by having this on the calendar, I feel like it would be very important to bring it forth and, have it spread in a way that, again, that people could actually be conscious of it at a level to what I call practice instant forgiveness, that when forgiveness is in your awareness and you hold that in your consciousness, that you can actively go into the instant forgiveness phase, which is acknowledging what I'm experiencing in my life is coming from me, and that I can go in within myself and clean that up instead of projecting it out into the world as somebody else being the cause of it. And so that's what your tools have taught me, is the fact that instead of, looking out there for my healing and that validation, is to go in to myself and understand that I have created all of this at some level, and it's just something that I am projecting, and that I can instantly clean it up and reconnect with love the moment that I'm aware of it. So that's what I'm working on.
Well, we certainly join in you working on that, and the way you're spreading it around the planet and sharing it in all different communities is absolutely awesome.
Thank you. I'm very happy to do that. Yes. And
Cool.
Tony's very excited that in the Arab world this is so needed and wanted, so he is very anxious to get this translated in Arabic to share it with his part of the world, and he just sees this as being the answer to so many prayers over there, to have people get on course and reconnect with love in the midst of so much violence that they have experienced in, very close proximity for so many years. And so he's very active to do that. So through all this work, it's just expanding, and I just can't commend you enough for what you and Jeannie are doing with this work and these tools. And having this radio show is just supporting all of us, and this is where we can access it, stay plugged in. So.
Well, thank you for that acknowledgement. And, the gentleman who's an attorney in Lebanon that you're working with, who's going to be translating the book, we're really talking about exactly the same issue as what David is talking about right now, is the internal family issues. And, when you look at the conflict between the Arabs and the Jews, they're family, they're brothers. Their ancestors were brothers, and created an animosity and a separation, and exactly the same principle applies, just precisely the principle of our return to our roots as human beings, and recognizing that each of us as a human being is the active presence of love. And when we bring that back into our own lives, we heal. And when we heal, our family systems heal. And wouldn't it be awesome to see the conflict, the horrific things that have been done in the Middle East between the Arabs and the Jews? Wouldn't it be awesome to see that family rift healed and these brothers and sisters coming together in love and cooperation and support, instead of thinking that the only thing they need to do is just kill each other off, and then the world will be a wonderful, safe space. And, of course, that's the ultimate fantasy of the non-being mind. If I could just get rid of all those people out there that are the problem.
Right, exactly.
And, it's just a larger picture of exactly the same principle that David's talking about with having opened the space for a father and a son to heal. And to change, those dynamics is absolutely awesome. When you look back at the roots of the conflict in the Middle East, there was a father named Abraham and two sons, and the conflict in those two sons between the father and the son still goes on today, and is just as healable as what David just shared with us happened in his immediate family, that changed a judge's mind that had a very severe and harsh penalty for a young man, and that reconciliation within the family system changes a judge's mind. And, it's just, we see these changes over and over and over and over again, and as we move this forward planet-wide, and our commitment is to take this to every mind, heart, and being on the planet, because it's time for we humans to start to function as humans again.
Right. What
Michael?
To David?
Yes, David.
Something that came to me, I remember one of the teachers that I had some years ago that was talking about murder and killing people, and I think my projection of it is that you talk about that when people take a geographic cure. And what my teacher had told me was that killing someone off physically or killing someone off mentally, it's the same principle. Energetically, it's the same. It's still murder. And so looking at and taking that responsibility of connecting with the people that we may have killed off, to me that's like making amends and going back. And, there's several programs that are out there. It's like in the 12 steps. Well, all of them, all of the religious programs, most of them talk about making atonement, doing that atonement. And to me, that's about taking on the responsibility of my part that's in it and opening the space in order to connect with whoever that it is so that can be healed. Otherwise, the next step, if I don't do that, the only thing that can accelerate is to do it physically. And I think that is why that there is so much of that's going on right here in our culture, although that it's more prevalent in other countries like that they are physically doing it. It begins at that energetic level before it ever reaches to the physical part of that. So we do our part. Go ahead.
And, of course, when you look at the principle behind it all, you get the original, they get the carbon copy. And when we start to just think thoughts of violence, when we start to use words of violence, we put an energy into our system which causes us to suffer. Because we're so good at denying our suffering and pretending it's about somebody else, we dissociate from our self-inflicted pain and suffering, and then we make pictures out of our self-inflicted pain and suffering of others and want to blame them for our pain and suffering. And our culture teaches us to, one of the things I talk about in the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, is the little deaths that people experience. Every little violence, every little engagement in the energy of hostility or fear destroys or overlays a part of our true spiritual being, which is love, until we are functionally dead. And in our culture, my experience is that the average person is dead by the age of 4. They've been trained by the culture to fall into this non-being state and to give up the active presence of love. And the work is to begin, step by step, worksheet by worksheet, to undo those little deaths that we've put ourselves through until we render our minds incapable of projecting our self-inflicted pain onto others, and all of a sudden we start to see others as humans, as they are, as we are, and it changes everything. So there are principles to be learned that underlie this whole process, and that's what we're here to support everyone learning with this radio show, is to bring that to a global audience.
Michael, we have 2 callers. One of them is a friend of Pamela's, 954-796. You're on the air.
Hey, how you guys
welcome.
doing, Michael? How are you?
We're blessed. And who are we speaking with?
This is Barry. And I've just got a couple of questions for you.
Hey, Barry, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I've got a question for you. I was listening to what you were just saying, all very good stuff. What would make somebody, how do you help somebody forgive, let's say a loved one, like maybe a daughter of theirs, when you see them making decisions and things that you know are incorrect for them, and you just know they're poor choices that are going to affect their lives, and you try to help with that, yet they make those decisions anyway. How do you forgive them? Like, how do you move past that and just, when I look at my daughter, not think of that or not see that?
Well, the first thing I would suggest is that you never forgive your daughter, Barry. That's a big mistake. Forgiveness isn't about letting somebody else off the hook for what's going on inside of us. But the forgiveness process that we're working with, the Aramaic process, is how you go inside yourself and handle and shift the fear, the hostility, whatever it is in you around what your daughter's doing. So your daughter, I'd offer, is a trigger, and it's going to be hard to shift anything with her until you shift, perhaps it's the fear that you have about the results she's going to experience. Perhaps she's making these decisions out of her genetics, and they're the kind of decisions that maybe at a time in your life you made, and you've seen the error of it and made the shift in yourself, but still have not removed the energetics in yourself that creates your trauma and disables your ability to literally be the space of love as your daughter makes her mistakes. And to recognize out of that space, out of your being, that your daughter's wisdom is guiding her to learn the lessons that she needs to learn, and they may be tough ones. Can you be a space of love for her to go through some tough lessons and simply support her in doing that? Acknowledge her wisdom, that she's going to do exactly what she needs to do to learn what she needs to learn.
Well, you know, it's funny because it's not like these are bad things. She's a world-class athlete in a certain sport, yet I see lately some decisions she's making, putting that more on the back burner for some things that are more social and things that, you know, the typical teenage girl might enjoy more. And I just try to explain to her that I don't think she's making correct decisions, but it hasn't really done much good.
Yeah. Have you done any worksheets around this issue?
No, I don't have a worksheet. No, to be honest. I just have sort of tried my best to get her to understand some of the things she might be giving up, you know?
Okay. Well, my highest thought would be that you jump on www.whyagain.com, and on the right-hand side there's a link that says Download Worksheets. The first two links, one explains the worksheet process, and the second link is the actual 7-step reality management process. You're a friend of Pamela's?
I am a friend of Pamela's.
Cool. Well, I'll bet you Pamela would be willing to support you through doing a worksheet around this and opening a space for your perception to be different and the space that you hold for your daughter to be different.
I'll bet Pamela would be amazing at that.
She is. She is. I know it already. Pamela, do you have a thought to share with Barry? Are you still there, Pamela?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. So do you have a thought to share with Barry?
Yes. Actually, he's new to this type of forgiveness. He attended one of my workshops that I did in the fall, and then I told him that from that point on I was revamping the whole message to incorporate your teachings because I just saw this as a huge missing link. So he is new to this new protocol, which I haven't brought forth yet, other than in private sessions with my clients. But I will definitely share that with Barry, and he will have a huge shift, no doubt.
Thanks, Pamela. I could use it because it's probably the only thing in my life that bothers me. Probably the only thing. So I could use that.
All right. Consider it done.
Awesome. Well, now you've got it.
Can I ask you one more question, Michael?
Go for it.
What would make somebody, myself this is, hold something? Okay, there was a fella, this is going back 20 years ago, when I once heard say something bad about a family member of mine. And I never forgot that, and I just never liked the guy ever since then. And when he actually passed away, he passed away young, like in his 50s, I just didn't want to go to his funeral. I know that's horrible. What makes somebody hold on to something like that? Like, why was I like that?
Well, you know, there's in India, monkey meat is a delicacy. And the way they used to trap monkeys is they would take a coconut and they'd hollow it out. They'd put a very small hole in, just big enough for a monkey to squeeze its hand in. They'd nail it to a tree and put food in the coconut. And the monkey would reach into the coconut, grab the food, and now its hand was enlarged and it couldn't get out. It couldn't let go, even though it was trapped and it was going to cost the monkey its life. And we all have this monkey body, monkey mind that once it gets a hold of something, cannot let go of it. It has no volition. It has no choice. It takes an awake, aware being called human, called love, which is the possessor of the choice body, to make a different choice. And the forgiveness process in the Aramaic, you know, if you haven't been around the work and if you haven't seen the worksheet, the forgiveness process that we're teaching is not about letting other people off the hook for what's going on inside of us, pardon me, but it's how you remove that which never belonged inside of you in the first place. And so that thought retained in your field is reflective probably of a larger issue in your life. You might remember, if you go back into Romans, it says, "Beware you who judge another, for that in which you judge another, you have been guilty of practicing." And so probably what you'll find as you do some worksheets around that issue is that there's a part of you that did something similar that you held judgments against yourself for, and once you clean those judgments up, all of a sudden that whole issue will evaporate and disappear.
Well, that's good advice, and I'll look into it. I've got to tell you, it's very nice how you guys help people. It's the first time I've ever listened to anything like this, and Pamela asked me to tune in, and it's it's good stuff. You guys do a good job, so keep helping people. That's great stuff.
Awesome. Well, and we'll invite you as you learn the process to pass it on, because what our commitment is to take these tools to every mind, heart, and being on planet Earth. And, of course, we're not going to do it ourselves. It's going to be people like yourself that go, oh, this is worth sharing with somebody and passing it on. So, awesome. Glad to be with you and be sharing.
That's a great goal, Michael. It would make it a heck of a better world. I know Pamela, and she's like beautiful from the inside out. So if everybody was like that, boy, it'd be a lot better world to live in. That's for sure.
It's how we're designed to be.
David. Barry.
Yes,
Barry?
Mike. Yep, I'm here.
This is David. I just have a request of you, and this is in support of the work that Michael has created and that's being done, in support of Pamela and everyone, and in support of yourself and with your daughter. And my request is that you make the commitment, which it sounds like that you're going to do with Pamela, that when you, as you do the work and as you see the results and the shifts and the changes, whatever that they may be, that you come back on the air and you share it with us of what the effect is.
Right.
You might even,
It'd be my pleasure.
you might even do this. Today is Tuesday. You might call back in on Friday or something like that, because I promise you, if you begin today, Barry, and you do a certain number, you make a commitment to do a certain number of worksheets, or to do the work, to do your work, not your daughter's work, to do your work, just as we were talking about at the beginning of this, then there will be shifts that will happen. They will be very obvious to you once at your level of commitment, and then the follow-through with that. So that's my request. That's the support that we would really like to have in keeping this going and for reaching every heart and mind on the planet.
Well, thanks, David. I'll give it a go, and I'd be happy to call in sometime again, and that'd be my pleasure. If you want, just have Pamela remind me, and I'd be happy to do that.
We will do that.
Thank you. Okay, well, delight to have you with us, and we've got another caller coming in. Jeannie?
Yes, I believe it's Nene, and you're on the air.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, Nene, and I don't know if you've connected with Pamela around the support group issues, and I know you guys met, but Nene has been doing this work in such a committed way since we met her the 1st of January. It's been absolutely awesome. So what's on your mind today, Nene?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm so happy to find Pamela again, because I've been meaning to call her, because I'm having so much success, I would say, with helping other people, that I do want to be, formally more involved with the support group in Florida.
Excellent. I will call you later today. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nene.
Okay. Yeah. And talking about commitment. I've been very attentive to your words, Mike, about being aware when something happens that you don't like it or something. How does it mean to you? How does it feel? That's the key for you to go inside and do the work. So during the weekend, I met with Maria and her daughter, and we did in Manchester. And the issue for me, or the sentence for me, was about commitment being easy and bringing joy in my life. So I started doing that. And it brought me back to my childhood when I broke my brother's flute, and I did not take accountability for that action. I was, in fear and terror that I would be punished by my dad, and also me being like the young girl, the baby of the family, and a girl, making a mistake. It was for me like losing all my position in my family. But then during the worksheet, I realized that denying being accountable, it later, my whole life up until recently, it played out in my life as me being incapable to make any commitment. And also, I became an absent mother. And then after owning and doing, shadowing that issue that came out in the Mind Shifter, I noticed that first, my real commitment that I've had from my heart was with myself and the true forgiveness work. And then healing has created in me wholeness, and I become a loving being, loved and lovable. And I'm a grown lady now, a grown woman, and also I'm becoming open, available mother.
Wow. Very powerful.
Canceling, yeah.
I love it.
Yes, I love it too.
Are you breathing?
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's an awesome piece of work. You've done so much work in just 4 short months, less than 4 months. The changes you've made, relationship changes, work changes. You got your perfect job in an economy where people weren't hiring. You've changed your relationship with your partner and now your daughter, and I can hear in your voice your relationship with yourself. It's like, what an awesome thing to do, and that those dynamics with Dad that have been so impactful that you've worked through. It's there's a wonderful line in the Course in Miracles that says, "Millions yet unborn will benefit from the work you do." And I'm so delighted and so proud to be on your team.
Thank you so much. So I encourage people to do their work, to do it. And the Mind Shifters are wonderful. And then Maria, Trisai, and we're going to meet for the breathing. So, and then I'm going to contact Pamela and also to be in that supportive, because I see the changes, and I've been helping people 2 or 3 times a week, different people, and I love it.
Fabulous. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you for teachers training at HeartLand this summer, and watching how you carry this work forward. And by the way, thank you for all the support you've been with the Spanish translations and the willingness, and the Spanish work is expanding here in Las Vegas. So it's so delightful to have you on our team.
Great. We miss you, Jeannie and Mike. Bye.
Thank you. We'll see you again soon.
Well, we're getting to play in a different part of the world. And so we've got another caller, and I understand that Sam Brotherton, who's been working and holding the space in Springfield, Missouri, back closer to our home territory, is on the line. Sam, welcome.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
I am blessed, young lady. How are you?
I'm great. Doing good.
So what's on your mind today? What's happening in your world?
Well, just all kinds of good things. I missed part of your show yesterday, so I didn't hear when you had asked me to call in, because I wasn't on because I was distracted by a phone call that I had. So I wasn't able to call in yesterday. So I understand you read the letter that I sent you.
Yes, Jeannie read it, and we thought you were there in the chat room, and so I had asked you to come on and just actually, I guess the main question I was going to ask you was to maybe share a little bit about how your response and approach would have been to this salesman who thanked you for expanding his patience and his kindness. I mean, you get a handwritten note from a salesman that says your interaction over our problem created more patience and kindness. That's awesome. But how would it have been? Let's see, you've been involved in the work now, what, about 7 years? But if you thought
no,
back,
it's been about
years,
10.
It's been 10
years.
Boy, time flies when we're having fun, doesn't it?
How would my reaction have been before?
Yeah, if you'd have gone to that company 10 years, 11 years ago, what would that have looked like?
Well, I would have found all kinds of reasons to be irate. I would have just had a lot of anger come up about how dare they deliver something damaged, and I just would have been in a totally different space. I would have justified my anger about how dare they do that, and I just didn't go to that space at all. I actually saw some humor in the fact that it was delivered a second time and there were problems with it, and the salespeople at Sears were more amazed at my reaction than they were at it happening twice, which I thought was really interesting.
Over the period of the 10 years of the work you've done, you've deleted a few realities about anger and irritation and upset. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what you're hearing. I don't have to go there.
Life
it's not
get
there.
Easier?
It's not in there anymore.
Right. Well, it's interesting to hear people say when they first start to look at this and they go, oh, geez, I got to face all this hostility and fear and get rid of it. That sounds like so hard. It's like, no. Living with hostility and fear is hard. Mm-hmm. It takes effort, but oh, my God, is it easier to live this way.
What's interesting is that I had told several people and posted about this, and people automatically went into the punishment. Well, make them take it back, blah, 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 blah. And they went on. And I said, no, because it's a mower that I wanted, and, I want to pursue it. And this is what I really need, and I'm getting a good deal on it. And, I had all of the justification that this is what I wanted, so I didn't go to the punishment at all. So once I learned about how we punish by taking away what we really want, that was a really eye-opening thing for me to understand how we punish. And I see it happening in the world all around me. It's just punish, punish, punish. If you don't get your way, then you punish. And it's been wonderful to realize that you don't have to go there. You just accept what is, and it came about in just a really nice way, and everyone was nice, and I even went in to visit the manager once I decided, because I was going to change over to a different mower, and I went up to a salesman and asked if the manager was there, and he said, oh, you're the lady that had the double trouble. And I said, yes. And he said, oh, I'll call her. And I said, I wanted to ask you something about another mower. And he said, oh, no. He says, I'm not going to talk to you. He said, you'll have to talk to her. He said, I'm not getting in this. And he didn't know that I wasn't angry. He assumed that I was angry. So when she came down, she and I were laughing about it, and as I was starting to leave, I said, your other salesman apparently thought I was angry, and he turned around and he said, you're not? And I said, no, not at all. And the manager said, she's not angry at all. And he goes, oh, okay. He just put his hands up and didn't want to talk to me because he just assumed that I was going to, be angry at him or something.
Laughing, yeah.
It was a really interesting experience.
And, I mentioned earlier the line in the Course in Miracles that says, millions yet unborn will benefit from the work you do. And, just that interaction and what difference did it make in the sales manager's eyes? When they went home, how did they treat their children? This salesman who's, written you the note, how does it change his family dynamics? Does he reach in? I don't know if you're on the early part of the show where David shared about his brother having a son that was going to prison for 18 years and punishment, didn't want anything to do with him, wouldn't talk to him, wouldn't discuss him, nothing. And because David shared the tools with him, he was able to resolve that, and the young man ended up acknowledging and admitting his errors and apologizing to the court and being willing to accept his 18 years. And in the courtroom, the father shows up and has let go of punishment and offers love to his son. The judge is so touched, the judge creates a tight contract that he'll have control over this young man if he steps out of line again, but instead of 18 years in prison, he's got 2 years. I mean, what changes happen in the world when one of us says, I'm going to do this differently?
Well, that's all it takes.
Michael? Yeah, this is David.
Yes.
He was already given the 18 years. This wasn't
I understand.
Yeah, okay. Because he had already, and it's like taking it back. It's like was so powerful. Okay.
Michael?
Yeah,
Tim Hayes here.
Hey there, Tim Hayes. Welcome.
I want to squeeze in here in the last 6 minutes or so because I have a son. I have two wonderful sons, and what I've told people is that they've been giving me a chance to test everything I've been teaching others in therapy for the last 30-some years.
Yes.
Including, as you well know, because you were here visiting when my oldest son had to face his comeuppance in court, and he had to end up doing some jail time for a prank he pulled that was quite serious. And I just want to say, for the benefit of Pamela's friend, I forget his first name, but
Barry,
if he can keep the focus on himself and his emotions and reactions and learn this worksheet process from Pamela, it can clear so much energy which will benefit his children. As a psychologist in town, I walked into a business meeting one morning, and I walked past the newspaper stand where my son's picture was on the front page of the paper with 3 felonies and 5 misdemeanor accounts. And I was able to walk past that and go into my business meeting and not take it personally and not be enraged at him and know this is just his life and his choices. And I could hold a space of love for him and understand, as you said earlier, Michael, these are his lessons he has to learn. And what I've been telling people for years is send your children the message that you will love them even if they're the kind of person who has to learn all their lessons the hard way.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. It's a powerful thing to do.
And it preserves and strengthens the relationships.
You said the key thing, Tim, is knowing that it's his lesson, that it's his. And I think that's a common thing that people take on. They take on other people's issues, and it's not about them. And they carry it, and it becomes a burden. And the one thing that I am so thankful for in this work is that it allows you to see what's yours and what isn't. And that makes a clear line there so you can back away and just look at your stuff.
Yeah, it's as Michael says in several of his lectures, if you want to figure out whether or not the negative emotion or feeling that you're experiencing is yours or it was created by somebody else, there's a very simple test. And the test is, if you're feeling it, you created it.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. That could be a fun test to apply sometimes when the mind is showing us it's all about somebody else.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to share. Thanks for being here, Michael.
Delighted. You know, there's a wonderful lesson that Job gave to us so long ago when he said, that which I feared most has come upon me. And until we're able to forgive the amplifier, the energetic amplifier of fear, when we put it behind something that we fear about ourselves or for our children, we become, through our fear of their loss, our fear of their being hurt, our fear of their being damaged, we become an energetic contributor to them creating that experience. When we're able to face our fear, forgive it. And you don't apply forgiveness to them. You don't apply forgiveness to yourself. You apply forgiveness to your fear. And as you do, when your fear disappears, it's displaced by love. And when you hold that space of love, it wakes up that space of intelligence and love in each person that you touch. And so thank everybody for the lessons today in doing that. And those who go, gee, I don't know, this sounds like a pretty strange conversation. I don't know if I could ever do that. Let me just share that you are the active presence of love. That's your true being. You can be restored through forgiveness to your true being, and you can bring that to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. Especially
and it's so much easier this way.
Yourself, yes, much easier. Your children and the people around you. It makes an awesome difference in the world. I'm going to say goodbye so
you can sign off, Michael.
Okay, thank you for calling in, Sam. Appreciate what you're doing in the world and your support in working with people in Springfield, Missouri.
Okay, thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Blessings.
So, Dr. Tim, anything else to share in the last 45 seconds or so?
Well, just that I would echo what Sam said, that this work, even though it takes some effort and application and some vigilance, it does make the day-to-day experience of life more joyful and easier. And I would be happy to support anybody who wants to hear how we're running our support group up here. And I applaud all the callers for their input. And thanks to you, David, for sharing.
Awesome. Have a blessed day, the best year yet of your eternal lives. Goodbye.